The purpose of this lesson is to study the concept of placing advertising in what is known as fixed position versus ROS, or run of station or run of site in media, and the very important concept of posting a media placement. This lesson will not only address differences in pricing, but will also serve to understand the concept of media delivery on audience projections. The business of media keeps changing with more programming choices to choose from and more platforms of delivery, but some principles of the business remain true and need to be understood to become a better marketing, media, and advertising professional in general. After you finish this video lesson, you will be able to define the concept of fixed position in media placement, define the concept of ROS or run of station, run of site in media placement, recognize the application of these concepts in a post-analysis report, recognize the expected audience delivery using industry standard parameters, recognize the concept of under-delivery and over-delivery in a media schedule, and learn how to report the results of a post-analysis of audience delivery negotiated between an advertiser and its advertising agency and the media. So like we do in all the lessons, let's start with the basic terminology. You need to understand this lesson. Fixed position is when an advertiser is very specific with the media, be a TV station, a radio station, print media, web, out of home, etc., of where the advertising message is to be placed. Fixed position is generally higher in cost than run of station placement. The less freedom of placement the media has, and the more the advertiser dictates specifically where the advertising message is placed, the higher the cost of placement. The opposite of a fixed position is ROS, or run of station. ROS units are placed within the available inventory and where the media chooses to place an advertiser's ad or commercial, given the freedom of placement with parameters granted by the advertiser in the negotiation. ROS is also known as run of station, run of schedule, or run of site, which is for publishers of websites, which means that the advertiser is allowing the station or the media the freedom of placement with certain defined parameters. As mentioned, the more freedom of placement the media has of the advertising, it is generally less expensive. The opposite of ROS is fixed position. In an ROS schedule, the advertiser cannot dictate placement and has to agree on a more open placement by the media, but within the parameters stipulated in the negotiation, for generally a lower cost. For example, an ROS can be as open as placement in any day part, any hour, or any day, which is sign-on to sign-off, or although some stations are literally 24/7. Or a little tighter within specifications, such as, let's say, Monday through Friday, 6 a to 7 p. This latter example means that the station can find an open availability to place that commercial any day, as long as it falls within Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and within the hours of 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. The station or the media in general has a lot of placement choices and has the freedom also to determine what they consider a day part and what is considered ROS for placement purposes. They also dictate the going rate, even if this is further negotiated. This is true for any media, such as out of home, where ROS contracts, for example, in this case of out of home, the media company can place that billboard in open or uncommitted spaces, and the advertiser agrees to that space for lower cost typically. A rotator is the average hours of programming where the advertising will be placed based on an agreement. In television, it could be as wide as placing when the station again signs off or signs on and off, or placement limited to a few programs. Again, Many stations are 24/7, and the most open of ROS placement can literally mean anywhere. ROS for digital can be placement anywhere or any channel within the site. Roadblock. This is the scheduling technique where the advertiser commercial airs are approximately the same time on all or most stations in a given market and given a placement strategy by the advertiser. This is the most extreme of fixed position scheduling. Roadblock for digital is slightly different though, and it means a takeover of this from the same advertiser but in different parts of the publisher's site. Let's not confuse. Post-analysis report. This is also known as post or posting, and this is the report on the performance of audience delivery by the media and monitored by the advertiser or media buyer through active stewardship of the schedule. So what is stewardship? Stewardship is the action of monitoring the advertising schedule while it's running and not waiting for the post-analysis after the campaign runs or after the fact to make up for audience under deliveries. Industry standard. This is the expected delivery on 90% of the pre-negotiated and projected rating points in case of broadcast or agreed upon audience delivery between media and advertiser, could be in impressions as well, if no further parameters are discussed and set. As long as media delivers 90% of the agreed upon audience projection, it is within the industry standard accepted delivery unless otherwise specified. Make goods. Make goods are the replacement commercials or advertising offered by the media to the advertiser to make up for lost and agreed to audience delivery estimates or errors in placement on behalf of the media. These errors in placement can be for advertising commercial, for example, that did not run for any reason, such as, for example, breaking news, which pushes out regularly scheduled programming with all the commercial breaks, or advertising that ran incorrectly due to a station error. When make goods happen for under-delivery of promised audience projection by the media for any reason or underperformance of programming, these make goods can also be called ADUs or audience deficiency units. Under-deliveries and over-deliveries. These are the performance of audience delivery by the media, whether they're measured in impressions or ratings, that are above or below the projection. The result of goal under delivery are make goods or ADUs, which is at the advertising weight applied to make up for lost audience delivery for whatever reason. Before I start, I cannot stress how important projected audience delivery is to an advertiser's objectives, your clients, and their business goals. Business goals are based on exposure levels. Always remember that, meaning that if an advertiser wants to sell, let's say, 10% more product, it has to expose the advertising message to a certain number of people. If the intended exposure goals are not achieved, the campaign will fail. The advertiser will not reach their business goals, and this is not a good scenario. This is why ad agencies and media have to closely monitor these delivery levels by stewarding the schedule while it is airing, so under deliveries for any reasons can be addressed. I like to explain stewardship as if the media buyer is a shepherd, and the audience delivery projections or ratings or impressions are the sheep that the media buyer or the shepherd is trying to protect and get to the pastures they're headed to intact and without losing any of them, protecting them from the wolves of under-delivery. It's a little out there, but you get my point. Also, let me be very clear that when I talk about goals, that means audience delivery projection. When I talk about post, now this is reality. You have to look at exactly where the commercial unit ran and what Nielsen says or whomever the third-party auditor says, the audience delivery is for each content or programming contracted or being analyzed. I hope this becomes clearer the more we get into this explanation. You probably saw the video lesson on rating projections, but if you haven't, I strongly recommend that you see that one before this lesson or right after so that you can fully understand the concept of media delivery expectations. Remember that media is planned, bought, and sold more than likely for future campaigns. In other words, the media that you're negotiating today will run sometime in the future. And if you remember from the video lesson, you don't have to have a crystal ball to know exactly what the audience delivery will be, so that you have to use mathematical equation and your knowledge to guesstimate what those deliveries will be. Now fast forward to the future, the campaign runs or ratings or impressions or audience delivery guesstimates you did at the time of the planning, buying, and selling. Those audience projections in the specific example we studied on rating projections using Nielsen rating reports is the accuracy of those estimates. They will be tested. The report that follows after a campaign runs is called a post-analysis report. Posts, as they are known, are a useful tool to determine the guesstimating skills of the buyer using the data at hand and the promise of audience delivery by the media. For clients, it generally serves as a report card for their advertising agencies. But their business goals are also riding on the audience delivering goals estimated. Broadcast stations and media in general also use it to monitor their performance and deliver on their promised audience level. An important function on behalf of the media buyer, especially, and the media seller is to steward that schedule, meaning not just to place the schedule and allow it to run, but to check on audience delivery and program performance using the Nielsen overnights where available. And in the case of TV, to test how well these ratings were projected and how well the station is delivering on the negotiating audience projections. Remember also that media sets their pricing based on the eyeballs or impressions they deliver. The more impressions they can guesstimate or project their content or programming will deliver, the higher the cost for that unit or that placement. The cost of placement is negotiated. The projected ratings and impressions can also be negotiated, as it will dictate the selling price. The only drawback is that regardless of a high projected rating and impressions to sell for a higher price, the media still has to deliver on what they agreed to deliver. In the media and advertising industry, the expected delivery or industry standard is 90% of the total placement. In other words, let's say that an advertising is running a schedule of 100 rating points, which was projected audience delivery and agreed to between advertiser or agency and media. The media is expected to deliver on 90% of the 100 points or 90 points instead of the full 100 points. This works for impressions as well, by the way. But let's talk about ratings for this specific exercise. Also, please note that the advertiser or agency can negotiate a different delivery parameter. For example, if it is a buyer's market where the buyer has the upper hand, the buyer can also dictate 95 audience delivery and not the industry standard 90 or even 100% in some cases. I have held TV stations accountable to 100% delivery when I was a buyer and had strong reasons to do so and not just on a whim. Because the station wanted my client's business, they agreed to the 100% audience projection delivery parameter I stipulated in the negotiation. This has to be agreed to beforehand during the negotiation for media to honor the delivery that deviates from this industry standard of 90%. So what is the difference between fixed and ROS, price and placement? As mentioned, the more freedom you give media to place the advertising, generally the lower the cost. In an ROS schedule, the advertiser cannot dictate placement and has to agree again on the advertising placed within the parameters stipulated. For example, a wide ROS can be used for the advertising to be placed anywhere within, say, 6 a.m. to midnight. Anywhere means anywhere, right? Between those two. You have to understand that each program delivers a different rating and impressions, so you have to estimate the delivery of the audience. More than likely, the buyer and the media will calculate an average audience delivery for each program and give the commercial placement an average rating and impressions to project that delivery. The more the advertiser specifies where the advertising is to be placed, again, the extreme being a roadblock where the commercial runs at the exact time in all negotiated stations on the buy, the more expensive the media inventory. Have you ever had an experience while viewing a television program, especially in linear television, that you go channel surfing during a commercial break and you seem to run into the same commercial in every station you tune into? You're probably seeing what is called an advertiser's roadblock. Regardless of whether you are buying fixed ROS, projected ratings, expected delivery at 90% of goal, or any other variation, the result of that performance is called a post-analysis. And this report guides what happens next. Keep in mind that the goal is always to take care of audience deficiencies while the campaign is running through efficient stewardship and not after the fact, for the sake of the advertiser's business goals and for that specific campaign. If a station or media does not deliver the expected goal and the pre-negotiated delivery standards set, say, 90% of the total points, the media owes the advertiser or the agency buyer points that fall below 90% of that goal or the negotiated ratings and impressions. In the example we use, 100% of points, rating points, is the goal. 90% standard delivery is 90 points. So audience delivery that falls below 90 points have to be delivered in form of make goods or ADUs, which is the makeup weight until the 90% of the points or whatever negotiated standard was is achieved as dictated by the advertiser. This is called under delivery. Of course, media can over deliver as well, and that's another story. The buyer always has to explain why the programming over delivered and why the estimate was not as accurate as it should have been. Maybe the content or programming was an unexpected hit with audiences, defying the audience projections. But all that being said, and while it looks like a good or great situation to place advertising in such a great program, the over-delivery still has to be explained and accounted for. Think about it. You could have saved money by projecting higher ratings or impressions and needing less units to achieve the goal. Okay? So let's start. Just remember to refer to the video lesson PowerPoint on understanding ROS versus fixed positions and posting in media placement so that you can study the chart. So let's first understand the numbers and the situation. Let's keep the example to ratings so that it's simple for simplicity. But this works for impressions as well. So let's analyze these numbers. The goal, and I'm going to start writing things down. So the goal or projected audience that was agreed upon between the advertiser and their agency and media are, let's say, the goal is 84 TRPs, okay, or target rating points. And this is ran its 84 rating points, and this is to run in various programs in the television station's lineup. The goal was set by the ad agency, media planner, and buyer, and was approved by the advertiser or the client. The agreed upon posting standard, or the agreement between the advertiser and the media buyer, is to respect the 90% industry standard, or to make up under deliveries below 76%. So 76 TRPs. So how did we get to this 76 TRPs? So 0.90 times 84, which is 90, the 84 TRPs, equals 0.76 times 100. That would be 76 points. This becomes the goal to look for, even though the ideal scenario is to achieve the 100% of the goal, or the 84 points. We're hoping for the best with our projections, but preparing the acceptable scenarios if the ideal scenario is not achieved. We're defining the parameters in the negotiation. So let's say the second thing we got to look at is the rotator. And the rotator that we're looking at specifically is composed of 3 programs. So you have So we have 3 programs. Program A, which delivers 6 rating points. Program B, which delivers 7 rating points. And Program C, that delivers 9 rating points. Again, we're keeping this simple. And we will see in a minute what we do with these numbers. The questions we need answered are: how many TRPs and commercial units will be scheduled? How the rotator with different programs will be projected? What are the station's rating point mandatory delivery at 90%? The percentage of goal versus delivery posting, and the ADUs or make goods owed, if any, after the schedule aired. For this case study, we will also need to know what exactly happened after the placement was done, or how the units actually aired, to assess how the station performed versus the projection. You need to know all that information to solve the problem, and we will take it step by step. So now, let's look at the rotator to see how we can achieve this 84-point goal. Now, what we need to do here is a rating average calculation. What this means is that the commercial unit can fall within any of these 3 programs in the rotator, each program delivering a different rating. The advertiser cannot stipulate how many should fall on each show, because they want the discounted price on giving the station freedom of placement in any of these 3 shows. The station, think about it, has a serious balancing act to do, which is placing the commercial unit on the inventory they have available within the rotator agreed upon. That's number 1. Then they have to deliver the audience projections, in this case, the rating levels they agreed to, or these 84 points. And number 3, respect the pricing that was extended to the advertiser. Remember that the advertiser agreed to these conditions as well. In this case, there were 3 programs, each delivering a different rating. What you need to do in this case to give it an average is to add the program ratings and then find the average of the 3. So if you have program A with 6 rating points, program B with 7 rating points, and program C with 9 rating points, you add them up and you get 22. Divided by 3, you have the rotator doing a 7.3, or let's round down to a 7. Then you have to decide how many units do you need delivering a 7 rating to achieve that 84-point goal. So hold on a second. Let me go ahead and erase this for a minute so that we can continue populating. So now, we are going to do a very simple. So how many number of units are you going to need? Or commercials, or, commercials or ads, etc. So you take the 84 TRPs and you divide it by the 7 average rating that you're giving the rotator, right? And you come up with 12 units. So you're going to need 12 units to achieve the 84 TRPs. Okay? So now let's continue moving forward. And in this particular case, what we're going to, and again, we're building upon different things. So let me use another color to keep building upon. So let's see what actually happened on the station placement side. Remember that when a buyer goes into a contract, which is ideally what was negotiated and expected, the post-analysis is what actually happened, or expectation versus reality. So let's analyze the facts. Remember that these are things you need to know in order to solve the puzzle. The reality was that the station aired, in this particular case, all 12 units and within the rotator of the 3 programs. So they fulfilled that part. They run all 12. That being said, in this scenario, they did not reach the intended points, and let's see why. We projected on an average delivery of a 3-program rotator. Remember that each program delivered a different rating, but we averaged to agreed on projection. But the station had inventory in 2 out of the 3 programs and ran the units based on their availabilities. Keep in mind that when you're analyzing a post or actual delivery versus what was agreed to in the contract negotiation or post, we need to look at where the unit actually aired and what was actually delivered. This is what the station was able to do. Still under contract specifications, but under delivering on the projected audience agreement. In reality, the station did not have inventory, in this case, on program C, which is the highest rated program, and perhaps because they were sold out. They didn't have inventory. And now what we're going to do is the actual post based on what is happening. So, so basically what's happening is that 10 out of the 12 commercial units ran in program A. So 10 units or commercials ran in program A, and this is times 6 ratings. So program A, remember, was delivering a 6 rating, and 2 of the commercial units, program A, let's put it here so that and 2 units ran in program B, and program B delivered hold on, program B delivered, let me go back. I believe it's 7 units, 7 rating points. Sorry, I don't have all these numbers in my head. So this is program B. Okay. So keep in mind that when we're running ROS schedule, the buyer understands that this is a risk they might run into. So what we need to do now is post the buy specific to the program they aired in, the units aired in, and not the average rating we projected. So we have program A with 6 ratings. So 6 times 10 is 60. So here we have 60 TRPs delivered. And then we have program B that had a 7 rating and 2 units run here. So 2 times 7 is 14. So these are TRPs in the post, right? So now all we have to do, and by the way, no unit aired in program C because they were sold out. So now all you have to do is add the rating achieved in this rotator. So 60 plus 14 is 74 TRPs. So now let me erase this so that we have a little bit more space. Continue writing in another. Okay, so your post is 74 points, 74 TRPs. Okay? So now let's analyze this and see, again, what do we need to do with all this information? Now, the station is liable for 90% of the TRPs or the industry standard. So we already did this, right? We basically multiplied the 84 times 0.90, which is 7.76 times 100. So your 90% is 76. This becomes the new goal, right? Because we agreed to 90%. So if the post is 74 TRPs and the goal is 84 points, the next thing that is important is to calculate the percentage of posts from the goal. And here, again, is a very simple, percentage of post. So this is a very simple division of 74, which is what posted, divided by the goal, which is 84 times 100. So the post here is 88%. Right? So what this means is that the buy or media placement posted at 88% of your goal. 88% is not 90, right? Which is your acceptable and agreed upon audience level. The final step is to see how many points do you need in order to make up for these ADUs or audience delivery. Let me pull up the slide. Okay, so you already calculated the 90% industry standard of the 84 point goal, which is 76. And the buy posted at 74 points. So this is a very simple, So let's put here, make goods or ADUs. So again, here is a very simple. What was the goal? 90%, 76. What was the post? 74. How many points do they owe you? 2 TRPs. I mean, this is a simple example, and some of these ADUs can be bigger. Now let's see all the stats together, in this scenario. The agreement between buyer and station or media was 84 TRPs, which was achieved with 12 commercial units placed in a 3-program rotator, delivering an average of a 7 rating. The rotator delivered 74 posts, or posting at 88% of the goal. At the industry standard delivery of 90% or 76 TRPs, the station owes the client or the buyer or the agency 2 points in made goods or ADUs. I hope that you enjoyed and got more insight into the media audience delivery versus projection in delivering a client's business goals, and I'll see you in the next video lesson.